go now, baby. Right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Before You Bet, airing live right now on the Covers YouTube and X channels. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like and subscribe button right down there. A lot of great content to be found here on the Covers YouTube channel. So coming off of a day yesterday where I made no bets whatsoever, a rare day in 2024. You probably have to go back to summer vacation, the MLB All-Star break, probably the last night I didn't get any action in. This is the business I work in after all, but I am refreshed. I am ready to rock here tonight. I have 5 bets across the NBA and Thursday Night Football. Jingles will be joining me here in a matter of seconds to get into his Thursday Night Football selections. Jake Butt, after that, breaking down these first-round college football playoff games, a couple other topics with him. Then the NBA is back tonight. They had the night off. So Jon Metler and I will be getting into all of our action on the hardwood here tonight. If you guys want to participate in the show today, very easy to do so. Hit up that live chat on YouTube, on X. What's your best bet in the Thursday Night Football game tonight? Let us know. We will read a few off throughout the course of the show. That's a shame. There was a lot of value last night. I'm guessing our guy there in the chat is talking about the college football bowl games, maybe some NHL. Give us some context, pal. Okay, let's get to our guy Jingles, who was sick earlier in the week. He missed the Monday show. Happy to have him back. How you feeling, buddy?
Getting old, beat up, but we're struggling to get through the week. There's a lot of things to do, a lot of games. I mean, no action for you yesterday. NHL's been busy. It was a big night for NHL. And Christmas. Christmas is busy. But you know who's busier? Woody Johnson's kids. Do you want to get into that? Have you talked about that yet?
Well, what is it? He didn't want to trade for Jerry Jeudy because of the Madden rating was too low?
Yeah, basically.
The New York Jets is $1 billion business. You're going off Madden rankings, for God's sake. How much more of a joke can this team be? This is a complete and total disaster. If I'm fans of the New York Jets, when's their next home game? I think it is, they play this week against the Rams. New York Jets fans, I implore you, you should stage a walkout at the start of the second quarter. Maybe if you want to get your money's worth, stay till after halftime. The start of the fourth quarter, stage a walkout. This is pathetic.
Jon Metler was right. He's like, yeah, I mean, Belichick's not even going to think about working with Woody and his, $3.3 billion net worth, 77-year-old man, former ambassador to the UK. Didn't know that. But I guess his kids got a hell of a franchise mode.
I want to throw something at you and at the live chat here. So I'm cleaning up my work area here. I'm moving into a new one on over the weekend. There's supposed to be a storm here Saturday, so hopefully that doesn't impact it. But I have this great hat that I got in Philadelphia.
Love that hat.
It is a great hat, but
not back.
A great color. I think I look good in green. I'm indifferent towards the Eagles, but I feel weird wearing it because, I'm a Dolphins fan. I don't want to be seen wearing a Dolphins hat. Is it okay to wear team gear that is not your team, just based on the style?
Yeah, 100%. Like the style, I wear most of my stuff based on color anyway. It's not like, I'm going to match this Eagles emblem with my sweater. No, it's just color stuff. Come on now.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start wearing that. It's a good time to be seen wearing Eagles gear. Okay, let's get into this Thursday Night Football game. I got 2. You got 4. Let's start off with probably the one meat and potatoes bet, aka spreads and full game totals. I'm going to go with the under for my best bet for this game. Total down to 41.5. I am fine with that. So just a great mix of trends and stats here. We have an avalanche of under trends. The Chargers have gone under in 15 of their last 19 divisional home games. The Broncos have gone under in 16 of their last 21 divisional road games. 10 of the last 11 games between these teams have gone under when the Chargers are the hosts. LA has gone under in 11 of the last 16 games, regardless of the opponent and location. Those are the trends. Here are the stats. These defenses are elite in the red zone. Number 1 and number 2. An opponent touchdown conversion percentage in the red zone. Expect a lot of field goals if they do get in close. Denver, their offense when they go on the road in the red zone, that is an area where they really do struggle. Both are great against the pass, 3rd and 7th in yards per pass attempt allowed. And they're both racking up a lot of sacks, 1st and 8th in sacks on the season. So I think we got plenty of evidence there to support a lower scoring game. I could see a 20-17 score on either side. Jingles, you're kind of going against me a little bit here. You like the Broncos to go over their team total.
It was this, or it was pretty close. The Denver money line at plus 125, plus 130. I need to know what people really like about the Chargers. I know we were going into last week thinking maybe they're slightly fraudulent. They've had kind of an easy schedule and they get the absolute doors blown off them. But this is setting up in a very similar spot at home as a field goal favorite. Where are we? Joe, I'm talking. You're on there. There you go.
I'm not controlling.
There you go. Oh, you're good. But no, it sets up similar as last week for the Chargers and the Bucs game. I mean, the Bucs put up 40 points. The Bucs put up 500 yards. What did the Chargers do? They didn't convert a 3rd down. Since J.K. Dobbins has been gone, this is arguably a bottom 5 offense across the league. They can't run the ball. Now, I mean, Herbert's been great, but he's not 350 yards great. He's banged up. He was running, which was great for his value, but ever since that KC injury in prime time 2 weeks ago, he hasn't really been able to do anything. I'm very pro Denver in this game, and I think this Denver offense, even with the injuries at running back, can still put things up. Bo Nix has been on fire of late. I mean, he threw 3 interceptions, but he's also got a defense that's backed him up with 11 forced turnovers over the last 4 games. There's a lot to like in Denver on both sides of the ball. I think Denver is a lot more similar to Tampa Bay than the Chargers are at all. The Chargers got maybe 2 guys in that secondary are likely out. One's out, one's doubtful. They already had 3 guys on the IR. Denzel Perryman's questionable. Their nose tackle's questionable. Will Dissly's out. One of their offensive linemen is questionable. And then on the other side, Denver comes in very healthy. I think this is a spot where, I was looking at Denver minus 6.5 and seeing what the price was. It wasn't much than the plus 130. So I like this. I like points for Denver on that side, and I like them on the money line.
We have a fair amount of disagreement for this game, which is kind of rare. Often, our plays can be correlated, but I'm going to push back on you now a little bit because my second best bet for this game, I'm going to take the Chargers to cover the first half spread, minus 1.5 coming in at plus 100. So this has been a great spot all season for LA. 10-3-1 against the spread. This is first versus 14th in first half points allowed, with first belonging to the Los Angeles Chargers. And check them out. They bounce back very nicely in games after a loss, at least in the first half. They are undefeated in the first half in games after a loss, meaning they have outscored the opponent in the first half of every game when they are coming off of a loss. And you kind of threw the word out fraudulent for the Chargers. I think you can make an equal claim for the Broncos. They've had it really easy lately. The Colts, who gave that game away to them, Browns, Raiders, Falcons over the last 4 games, a lot of Saints, Panthers mixed in there as well. So I don't care about the end result as long as it goes under, but I do think the Chargers will have the lead here at the half, so I'll take them as my second best bet for the game. Let's run through. You have a prop and 2 anytime touchdown scores, so give us the prop first.
Yeah, BSM 726 looking for some accountability. Go to my Twitter. I have all my plays there. Before you bet is on there. Everything's tallied up until the end of November. Plus 18 units, but that includes baseball too. But if you want, go look through all the plays, just so you know. But here we go. Javonte Williams. Do you want him as a rusher? He's not a great rusher, but he'll get most of the routes. So where do we go from this spot? We're going to go over 54.5 total yards for a guy who, this has been a very difficult backfield to judge. If you're a fantasy guy, if you're a bettor, Sean Payton's backfield has been a 3-headed horse, but Jaleel McLaughlin's out. And in this spot, I have to get Javonte Williams to expect somewhere in that 60 to 70 snap share, 65% RB opportunity share in this game on a short week with a lot on the line. McLaughlin last week, before he got injured, led the team in carries, touches, and yards. They need to go somewhere. If they go to Javonte Williams, this is a really low number. His rushing total's at 34. His receiving total's at 11, open at 11, moved to 14.5. And his receptions are at 2.5, minus 160 to the over. So volume's coming for him. If they can play with the lead, if they can play tight, this is a spot where, 11 carries, 4 targets get you across the line on this. And then I'll bleed that right into a spot where you take his anytime TD on top of that at plus 175 because he's going to be the guy who gets all the red zone carries. Audric Estime has had 7 scoreless red zone carries on the year. He's had one game where he kind of got the lead, and he didn't really do anything with it. He hasn't done much over the last 4 weeks either. So Williams at least has 2 touchdowns over the last 4 weeks. He hasn't been insane between the 20s, but he's been a little efficient, scoring on 4 of his 18 red zone carries, where Estimate's only had a 20% red zone carry rate. So there's a lot to like in this spot for Williams as a TD, plus 175. Show me a spot where you can get a guy who's hopefully getting 65, 70% of the touches at plus 175 as an RB1 TD. But if you want some insurance in that, some big insurance, no one knows who Michael Burton is. That's because he's a fullback. But he has a touchdown on the year. 50% of his carries have been in the red zone. This is a fullback who they might have to get creative. Why might they have to get creative? Because Joe mentioned it. The Chargers are very good in the red zone. Tampa Bay last week put up 40 points. They only scored once in the red zone in 4 trips. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe they go out with the I formation and that quick dive to Michael Burton, which is how he scored his touchdown in his other one. But he does get carries. And like I said, there might be a few more carries to go around. So Javonte Williams is just a number that I don't think is priced in as much, whose role that could grow because of the McLaughlin injury. And then what they want to do in the red zone. I know Bo Nix has thrown a lot of touchdowns, but if they can run something in, I'm happy to have a share of Williams and Burton in the spot.
Yeah, just a little bit of a swing on that one, a 21-1 touchdown score. I like that one.
100-1 first.
Yeah, let's go. Okay. Very active live chat here today. Temple 2431 seems to be on my side. He likes the Chargers first half bet. He doesn't like your Denver team total. So we shall see who comes out. There is a path to victory where we can just all win our bets here. They're uncorrelated, of course, but we will see how they shake out here tonight, Thursday Night Football. Jingles, will leave it at that for your segment today, but you're going to be right back with us tomorrow on the Friday show, our usual avalanche of NFL picks for the Sunday games. So, buddy, we're happy you're feeling better. Thanks for joining us. Best of luck with your bets, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
Go Broncos. Let's go.
I don't know about that. All right. Okay, so earlier this morning, I had my weekly chat with Jake Butt discussing all the hot topics in college football and the NFL. Let's throw to that now. It is now time for our weekly chat with former Michigan Wolverine, current analyst at the Big Ten Network, our guy, Jake Butt. Jake, we got a lot to discuss today. How you making out?
Man, I'm making out great, Joe. I can't believe we're finally here. I mean, our relationship started all way back when in the beginning part of the season, and now we're finally here for the first edition of the 12-team playoff. I can't wait, man. It's going to be awesome. I will be on site, Indiana, the battle for Indiana, Notre Dame. Can't wait. That's going to be an awesome battle. Highest get-in price there. I was looking at parking ticket prices or parking prices, $800 to park your car. So the fans are juiced up for that one.
I mean, I like football as much as the next guy, but $800 to park.
800, man.
I don't know about that. Okay, so we're going to jump into these some analysis for the 4 first-round games. I got some NFL stuff that I'm going to throw at you as well. But let's start with this, to opt out or not to opt out. This has become a major theme for these college bowl games over the past couple of seasons, both from a general fandom perspective and in our world here, sports betting, because based on these stars being in and out, pretty big line movement. Now, I think a lot of people know your story, Jake. You played in one of these bowl games. You had a serious injury, and it did have a serious impact on your draft stock in the NFL. So where did you stand on the opting in, opting out before, and where do you stand on it now?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I'm the perfect guy to have this conversation. So how about it? Yeah. So for those that don't know, I tore my ACL in the Orange Bowl in 2016. It was the last game of my career. Second ACL in my right knee, and I had just won the Jon Metler Award for the nation's top tight end. So I went from being projected as like an early second round pick to being drafted in the 5th round, and the financial difference there was probably like $4 or $5 million in terms of draft position. So I lost a ton of money. The year prior is when Jalen Smith, the Notre Dame linebacker, really banged up his knee in the postseason. And that caused him to go from like a lock of a top 10 pick in the draft to an early second round pick. And now you're talking like $10-20 million difference. So he lost a ton. Around my year is when Christian McCaffrey sat out, Leonard Fournette sat out, and that was the first time guys had ever done this. And it was like, whoa, guys are opting out. This is nuts. My teammate Jabril Peppers kind of got a little bit injured in warmups and decided, not to play. So that, like, right around when I got hurt, and it was a real public injury, the conversation started to heat up. Knowing what I know now, I personally would play regardless. I was voted captain by my teammates. I love the University of Michigan. That to me, I'd always play anyways. And the truth is, and people have a argument here, chances are you don't get injured. I mean, guys go full seasons and aren't getting injured. So chances are you play and you don't get injured. But what happens in the one instance when you do? For me, obviously, that was the only time I ever got hurt in a game in my entire college career. You can do the math on that. Now, what happened, though, Joe, is there's the $1 million or the multiple millions of dollars that I lost. Then in the NFL, you hear about going on IR, which is injured reserve. There's another distinction you get put on when you get hurt outside the NFL. So I tore my ACL and I missed my whole rookie year. So I was hurt outside the NFL. I was put on something called NFI. That meant I did not get a 401k match. That's like $25,000. I didn't have benefits. Like I didn't have health benefits. I didn't have dental. I didn't get a year vested towards my retirement, which like over a lifetime, that's multiple 6 figures of value. I made split salary. So instead of being paid my full salary, I made split salary. That was over $100,000 reduction in salary. So you can see how the costs like start to add up if you get injured in these bowl games. And one thing that's really underrated is we're going to talk about these bowl games we're playing here in late December, and some guys will be playing all the way into early January. If you decide to opt out after your last regular season game, instead of practicing and further damaging your body to play in a game that further damages your body, which means you take a week off after that and then start combine training, you really aren't going to start your first week of combine training until like the last week of January, like hard combine training. If you opt out after the season, that first hard week of combine training starts before Christmas. So you get a full month of additional training to prep for the combine and pro days on your peers. That's another thing that I think is really underrated in this that I think guys are considering.
I do 100% understand why a player would want to opt out, but the unfortunate thing is, and the obvious thing is that it waters down a lot of these bowl games. You're tuning in to see Colorado, and the 2 big guys probably won't be playing, right? So it doesn't give the fans much incentive, but you have to understand it from a player's perspective.
Let me just say this though, because how about this? How I think we got here is we watched coaches leave before bowl games. The most recent one that was really public, and Brian Kelly isn't exactly the most welcoming, warm guy. He left Notre Dame to go to LSU at a point in time where it was before the playoff rankings, and Notre Dame had like a backdoor shot of getting into the playoffs. And Brian Kelly left in the middle of the night to go to LSU, and understandably so. Don't get me wrong. I mean, $100 million. We all saw the contract, but he left and sent a TeamWorks like team chat message to his guys saying, "Hey, thanks for everything. I'll see you later," basically. And I just think about the fact that Brian Kelly sat in all those players' living rooms and looked their parents in the eyes and said, I will take care of your son. Don't worry. I'll take care of him. And then bang, as soon as a better opportunity presents itself, he left. He's not the only coach to do this. So what never gets talked about in these situations is we put all the blame on the players. The players are just observing what the coaches do. And it may not, like Deion's not going to leave in the middle of the night, right? But those guys will still opt out. But they're still observing the rest of the landscape where coaches leave. Look at the situation with Marshall, right? Coaches leave all the time, whether it's their own doing or the school's doing because they don't renew contracts. The players are just observing the things that happen above them. That, the standard was set by those above them. So that's where I think this got started, is they're watching coaches leave for better situations. Why should I be loyal to a school? And I understand that logic.
Yeah, you got to be in it for yourself here every once in a while. Can't fault people there. Okay, Jake, let's get into the action here. 4 first-round playoff games starting off on Friday. Indiana at Notre Dame, who's favored by 7.5 points. Total 52.5. Notre Dame, an absolute batting wagon coming into this game. They've covered in 8 straight games. Indiana, a trend for them, a fun one. Has seen them go over in 9 of their last 11 games. What do you make of the matchup here on Friday?
This could be an awesome game. I mean, it's a classic football game. I'm going to be on site. I got my hand warmers. I got my Under Armours. Because we're out there in the open. No heaters. We're doing our post-game show. It's supposed to be like real feel of 15 degrees. Going to be chilly. Now, you look at the identities of these teams. Notre Dame, really great, sound defense, aggressive blitzes, exotic coverages. Notre Dame, great running game, one of the best running back duos in college football. And you mix in Riley Leonard, who certainly isn't, Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes throwing the ball, but he can run the ball as well. So he complements the run game. I like that identity. I'll be honest with you. I like that identity in the sense that I think Notre Dame has a chance to make a run. Indiana's a tough matchup for them, though, because Indiana has one of the best. I believe they have the statistically best rushing defense in college football. They haven't. Here's the funny thing. I looked at the stats. Of 9 of their 12 opponents they've faced this year, in terms of rushing offense, have been outside the top 90 in terms of rushing offense this season. So Indiana hasn't faced any offense close to what they're going to face like Notre Dame. The other thing is, Indiana played Ohio State. We all saw how that game went on the road. Listening to Kurt Cignetti talk, he said one of the big reasons Indiana struggled there is they didn't handle the noise of being on the road. So he said his team's going to be ready for this. Curtis Rourke is quarterback, the Indiana offensive line. They have to be prepared for a very loud environment. I played at Notre Dame as a player. It is going to be packed. The fans are excited for a playoff run. They have to handle the noise because of those exotic defensive looks, because of those exotic pressures. Otherwise, Notre Dame's defense is going to tee off and lead to a comfortable victory here. So it depends. Like, hey, man, some people, 7.5 points, I can see why some people like to take Indiana here. I just really like the identity of playing sound, physical, exotic defense and running the football, particularly in these conditions. You mentioned Notre Dame being a betting wagon. I'm rolling with the Irish.
Let's go. Okay. Next up, SMU Penn State. Penn State, they're up to a 9-point favorite now. Highest total of these first-round games at 54 points. Penn State, great bet as a favorite here. They don't really play down to the competition. 15-6 against the spread in their last 21 games as a favorite. Do you think we could see that trend continue in this one?
I do. And you look at, you mentioned the total. SMU, just as a theme, is an aggressive team. They're aggressive defensively to the detriment of their own defensive structure at times. They're aggressive, but they don't play gap sound defense. The problem is they're facing a Penn State offense that is very patient. They run outside zone, and as soon as the gap opens up, bang, the running backs are going to cut it. They got a veteran quarterback in Drew Aller who I hope I'm not putting too much value into one game, but I kind of am. What he showed me in the Big Ten championship, that was the best game of his entire career. That was big boy football. And all of a sudden, I look at the layout of the teams that Penn State's playing, SMU, and then if they win, Boise State. I like Penn State to ride all the way to the semis here. The other thing is SMU, another aggressive offense. they have not seen a defensive front like what they're going to face from Penn State. Abdul Carter is a potential top 10 pick in next year's NFL draft, and they got a ton of pass rushers, and they are flying downhill. That SMU offensive line has not seen anything like Penn State's defensive line. So this one feels like SMU's a team that doesn't care. They're just going to keep their foot on the gas, which, hey, maybe there's a backdoor cover late, but eventually, they're just going to hit a brick wall on both sides of the ball playing Penn State, particularly Happy Valley. They're going to make it a whiteout. I've played in that environment. Good luck. Penn State wins this one and covers.
Okay, next up, it is the biggest spread of the first round games. And the analysts that we've had on our show here, everyone's pretty split on this one here. Clemson, Texas, up to a 12-point favorite, total of 51.5 points. Now, I'm not going to say Texas is upset proof, but they're 22-0 in their last 22 games as a double-digit favorite. Under in 8 of their last 9. Meanwhile, for Clemson, we know plenty of big game experience there. A head coach for them. Do you think that will come in handy here, or do you think Texas might lay the smackdown?
Dang it, Joe! You all the bullet points in my notes, you just hit them right there. Let's start with the coaching, though. Let's start. Dabo versus Sark. Okay, let's acknowledge the fact that Dabo has won championships. Sark hasn't done it as a head coach, but as I started to think about this, because right there I would say, man, I kind of like Dabo in this matchup. But when he won the championships, elite Trevor Lawrence, back then it was an elite Deshaun Watson, particularly in college. That's not Cade Klubnik, okay? Cade Klubnik is not looked at in the same light as those two quarterbacks at the college level. So I think that minimizes some of the coaching ability. Hey, I would look like a great coach if I had Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson playing quarterback in college too. So I think that kind of minimizes the coaching battle a little bit. And you look at the X's and O's. Okay, Texas, they've dominated everybody outside of Georgia. So outside of when they played Georgia, they've won 10 of those 11 games by 2 scores. Okay, so this spread is a little more than a touchdown and a field goal. 2 scores. They've dominated everyone. Why? One of the best defenses in college football. Top 3 in points allowed on the season. Top 3 in yards allowed on the season. So the elite defense. They're playing Cade Klubnik, the Clemson quarterback. He's been good, except when he played SEC defenses. So in the 2 games he's played against SEC defenses, not a good stat line. 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I'm shaky, Joe, on Quinn Ewers. I would not be surprised if we see like an Alabama Jalen Hurts Tua Tagovailoa type situation at some point. We see Arch Manning have to go in there. I'm shaky. But that defense for Texas is so stout, and Cade Klubnik has looked shaky against elite defenses. That's the reason I like Texas to cover in this game, is I just don't think they're going to give Clemson an edge. I just don't see how Clemson's going to move the ball against them.
Yeah, that Quinn Ewers draft stock has taken a real hit over the past.
He's coming back. I don't, he's coming back, not in Texas. He'll go get paid a few $1 million to play college again next year. It's crazy to say that, but that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing as well. Okay, last but not least, a lot of people making a case here for Tennessee as a 7.5-point underdog against Ohio State. Low total on the low end, 46.5. Now, the vibes the past couple of weeks at Ohio State, not very strong. You think they can get some positive vibes going against Tennessee here?
That's the difference. It's all about the vibes here for the Buckeyes, because everything aside from the offensive line injuries, which is a very real thing because Tennessee has a great defensive line. Aside from that, all the reasons we loved Ohio State coming into this game and coming into the season are still there. The defense is playing lights out. The Buckeye defense is as good as anybody. They're playing as good as anybody. And Tennessee likes to run the ball. I wouldn't run into the teeth of that Buckeye defense. Honestly, they're most vulnerable on the edges. I think their defensive backs are shaky, and particularly shaky in big moments. But quarterback to quarterback here, I'll take Will Howard and his experience and his running ability over Nico Iamaleava for Tennessee. So I think the Buckeye defense holds strong. That's good. Then it becomes a question of what's the game plan for Ohio State? Losing in today's environment in college football, like it's not okay to lose to your rivals, but it is if you can learn from it and that learning lesson propel you to higher heights. Will Ryan Day and Chip Kelly learn from their mistakes of not throwing the ball to their Lamborghini of a weapon, Jeremiah Smith, for 25 minutes against Michigan? My best bet of the week is Jeremiah Smith over 5.5 catches. Okay, it's going plus 125. Okay, 5.5, it's a little bit on the high end, but the plus 125 odds, this to me, if they lose and Jeremiah Smith doesn't have 6 or 7 or 8 catches, we're talking about that you're getting fired. Like this guy is this guy is a top 15 pick as a true freshman. That's how good he is. That's how good he is. How can you go into these playoffs and not ride your best player? I just can't see a world where he's not targeted 10 plus times in these games. So I'm picking the Buckeyes to cover because I think they're going to overcome this loss. I'm picking an overcorrection where they feed Jeremiah Smith. And I'm picking the Buckeye defense. That's going to be the reason they're going to ride that defense all the way to the national title game.
Okay, Jake, let's shift gears over to the NFL. Then we'll get you on your way. So the story of the week in the NFL, Kirk Cousins out, Michael Penix in. So I want to ask you, as a former player, how difficult of a situation do you think this is for Michael Penix, kind of getting thrown right into the fire? The Falcons still in the playoff hunt. If they win out, they might get into the playoffs here. So how difficult of a situation is that for him compared to a more traditional situation of a rookie getting his first start? Maybe the expectations aren't very high, or do you think it's a good spot for Penix?
Well, there's two things that are working, and both are true at the same time. It is a difficult situation because, you know, you'd like to kind of iron out some of those kinks. You know, you come in, you want to maybe, you know, you need a few games to kind of settle in. The other piece is Michael Penix is, of all the rookie quarterbacks, this dude's old. He's experienced. He's played a ton of football in his career. He's one of the best pocket passers coming out of the draft. So I think he's comfortable operating in the pocket. He's got that working for him. But the other thing is hey, Penix, like the Falcons know they're not winning a Super Bowl this year. Okay. So sure, would they like to make the playoffs? Yes. But what they'd really like is Michael Penix to develop and get better and better and better every week so he can be better and ready next year. Remember when Pat Mahomes came in late, I believe the Chiefs had secured a playoff spot and they let Pat Mahomes start a game in Denver. He didn't look like the Pat Mahomes today, but that experience was invaluable. And I don't think that the Chiefs fans are saying, man, I wish Pat Mahomes looked better in that game. That experience proved to be very valuable for Pat Mahomes. And that value and that experience and all those learning moments have helped him. So sure, this is a tough spot in the moment for Penix, but I don't think the Falcons are going to put any pressure on him to do anything beyond himself. They're telling Michael, hey man, listen, you're our guy for the future. No rush here. Just go out there and do what you do.
Okay, so 3 weeks left in the regular season for each team, and a bit of a theme, a bit of a discussion point we have among fans is teams that are tanking, the potential that some teams are tanking. I think sometimes it's a little overrated. You know, we've talked about it on this show before that, you know, organizations tank, players and coaches don't necessarily tank. You know, you have guys who are in the final years of their contracts, coaches who are looking to save their jobs, other coaches who are looking for promotions. So do you think this is something that is overrated, or do you think there are actually a handful of teams that will take their foot off the gas?
Oh no, what you just said is very real, but it'll never be addressed in the locker room. You almost feel like you're losing your mind because you can see them, you know, it's like the puppet masters like making moves behind the scenes and you're like, that's not going to help us win. And then the coach comes in for a team meeting. This is always a good indicator. When the coach has to remind the team we're here to win, they're kind of telling you he knows something's going on here that's hurting our chances to win. So this is a very real thing. Organizations tank, not coaches, not players. Coaches are coaching for their jobs, to your point. Great jobs in the NFL. Players are playing for their jobs. Those pay very well. But the truth is coaches can be coaching with their hands tied behind their backs. And occasionally organizations won't even play their best players that give you a chance to win. So it's what you just said is very real. Fans, you'll never be vindicated. No organization, front office, or owner is going to come out and admit they're tanking. But you can connect the dots a little bit and find out which organizations are maybe not directly tanking, but trying to force their coaches and players to play with their hands behind their back.
Yeah, if I needed to put a target on one team, it would be on the Las Vegas Raiders. Maybe a little wink behind the scenes with Antonio Pierce. Like, okay, we'll let you keep your job here maybe, but
maybe
you put off the gas. We got to get that first overall pick here. That is a team that desperately needs a quarterback. Maybe. If I need to pick one candidate for that. Okay, last but not least, we get a Thursday night football game here tonight. Your former coach, the Chargers, looking to bounce back. That was an ugly second half that they played against the Bucs there last week. They're favored by 2.5. Total on the lowish end, down to 41.5. Any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so it was an ugly, as you mentioned, an ugly finish to the game for the Chargers. But the Broncos aren't the Buccaneers, thankfully, for the Chargers. Bo Nix is not Baker Mayfield, thankfully. And for the Broncos, it wasn't exactly a pretty game either, right? They were benefited by how many turnovers by the Colts, okay? So both teams certainly didn't play their best game last week. What I love in this game really is I look at the trend. The Chargers have covered the spread in 6 of their last 8 games, okay? They're also playing at home. I see this really as the Broncos have a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, who I like, and I like the fit with Sean Payton. What I don't like is a short week Bo Nix coming off a shaky performance, going up against one of the NFL's top defenses in the Chargers. That's what I don't like. I do like Justin Herbert, even with some of the injuries that he's been dealing with all season. I like him to handle a short week against a good defense more than I like Bo Nix. So I'll take the Chargers to cover. But I told you this here before the show. This feels like a classic Thursday night football, low scoring, under game. 2 of the best defenses in all of football. The key for the under, 2 of the best red zone defenses.
Yes.
So let's kick some field goals, baby. Let's kick some field goals. The red zone defenses point to the under. And if I had to mix it in, give me the 3-leg. Lad McConkey anytime touchdown. He's a stud, man. And Justin Herbert doesn't have many options. He's going to be looking Lad's way.
Field goals, not touchdowns, except for McConkey. Okay, Jake, we will leave it at that. Thank you again for joining. We won't see you until after Christmas, so happy holidays to you and your family. Have a blast at the game on Friday night, and we'll catch you ahead of these second-round matchups.
Thanks, Joe. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you guys.
All right, the NBA is back, baby. The night off for the NBA following. It kind of feels like we're coming out of an all-star break. That's the vibes I'm getting. A lot of these teams haven't played since Sunday. Let's get into it with our guy, Jon Metler. Jon, no NBA last night. What did you do with yourself?
I actually was watching games from the night before. I watched Kings Nuggets and Warriors Mavericks. So I was just catching up on some film.
How about the Bucks, though, really turning the corner? They got off to that awful start. We were wondering, is Giannis going to ask out, or are they going to have to fire another head coach here in Doc Rivers? Not the case. I mean, it is an accomplishment. Some people, might scoff at the NBA Cup here, but every team playing under the same rules, and there is a level of competition to it, and they won it. So good for them. Any thoughts on their chances of winning the real tournament here when we get to the NBA Finals? Do you think they would have a good shot against the Celtics?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a good momentum builder for them, where they finally, it feels like the Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, it's finally starting to look more like what they thought when they traded for him. Like when they traded him from last year, what was their win total? 54. They were plus 600 to win the NBA Finals. Everyone thought it was going to be immediate. They're sitting, I think, about plus 2,700 in that range right now to win the NBA Finals. I don't know. They've also been rumored for a lot of moves. So I don't know if they pull back off of that just because they did win, the NBA Cup. Maybe they feel like they have the team. Maybe they feel like they're rolling in the right direction here. It does feel like a lot of their role players are fitting in nicer with how their minutes are and what they're being asked to do. I think adding Andre Jackson to as a defensive stopper really helped them. AJ Green is he hit 1 3-pointer over Hartenstein. I think I was like, oh my God, that's a crazy 3-pointer. I don't know if I'm interested in betting them to win the whole thing, but I kind of want to see if they make a move. The Chris Middleton thing, it's just, is Chris Middleton healthy? He's come back. He didn't play in the NBA Cup final. But like even the couple games he's played, I think he had like 0 points, 6 points. So if Chris Middleton is healthy and like he starts to look a little bit more like Chris Middleton we've seen in the past, huge game changer. But it was nice to see them. I like teams who try to win and go all in and all those things. So it's kind of nice to see them win the NBA Cup. Anyone saying the NBA Cup is meaningless, I think is stupid, to be honest. I mean, when you played high school sports, any tournament you were in, were you trying to win? Absolutely. You didn't get a league title for it, but you wanted to win the tournament. So I don't know. I think it's a bad take to say that NBA Cup's meaningless.
Okay. So yeah, I think that maybe they could use some help in the depth department. I do worry about them breaking down with injuries, like we saw that last year in the playoffs. Chris Middleton, a little bit older. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't think they're going to be trading for Jimmy Butler anytime soon, but if they could round out that rotation, I think they'd have a fighting chance against the Celtics. Celtics are so deep, though. I don't think anyone in the East is beating them this year. Okay, so 6 total picks for tonight. Spreads, totals, props. Let's get right into the action. I'm going to get us started with my favorite spread bet of the night. It is the Memphis Grizzlies at home with the Warriors in 10. I'm going to take the Grizz -2.5. Couple of trends, couple of stats. Memphis is coming off a loss in their most recent game to the Lakers. They have been money in this spot. This is a sign of good coaching. They are 7-1 against the spread in games after a loss this season. That is the best mark in the NBA. Also, when they are hosting the Golden State Warriors, they are on an absolute roll. The last 10 times the Warriors have come to town, the Grizzlies have gone 9-1 against the spread. Let me get into some stats here. The Grizzlies, quite simply, they're just in much better form right now. 3rd versus 21st in net rating over the last 10 games. The shooting of the Golden State Warriors, not very good in that span. 26 in effective field goal shooting percentage. Might get better at some point. It probably will, but I don't think in this game. So give me the Grizzlies to win by 3 or more tonight. Okay, Prop City, RJ Barrett putting up big numbers at home, and you're on him tonight.
Yeah, I'm going under though. I'm going RJ Barrett under 25 points.
Let's go.
I got -105 here. I think it's more about -120 now. So what really drew me to this bet is RJ Barrett. I like the under 25 when you're looking at the projections and the numbers and all those things, with the idea that Scotty Barnes isn't playing, but it sounds like Scotty Barnes might play. So if Scotty Barnes is playing, I mean, you are absolutely getting a great number here at the 25.5. And it's like some sports books, they didn't even have RJ Barrett's props up this morning. They only have Scotty Barnes, and then some of them do have it up. So I think that's kind of an indication that Scotty Barnes could play. I like it either way, but obviously you're going to catch a huge boost if Scotty Barnes comes back. The other thing I do like, the Nets aren't a great team, but like individually as defenders, like Dorian Finney-Smith, he can handle RJ Barrett. Ben Simmons is a good defender. Nick Claxton protects the rim. Their problem is they're scoring. They have like no offense. They just trade away Dennis Schroeder. They're out without Cam Thomas. And the other thing from the basketball side of it too is Jordy Fernandez, head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. He was the head coach of Team Canada, where RJ Barrett was playing. He coached him in the FIBA World Cup, the Olympics. Obviously has spent a lot of time. He was one of his leading scorers. I feel like as a head coach, you probably have a good idea of how he likes to score and how you can slow him down. So the Nets aren't the great, but I actually think they have the matchups that could handle Barrett. So I went under 25.5 points.
Yeah, you got to assume that's going to cool off at some point. Hopefully for the case of you and our show, it will be this evening. Okay, next up for me, probably the game of the night here. Revenge game all around. Karl Anthony Clowns makes his return to Minnesota. There will not be a dry eye in the house when he returns to the court. So Knicks, T-Wolves in Minnesota, total of 215. Kind of on the low end. I don't think it's low enough. I'm going to take the under on this one. So the T-Wolves are on an amazing stretch on the defensive end of the court. Last 10 games, they are first in defensive rating. Knicks are 8th. That also helps our bet here. But Minnesota, the only team over the last 10 that is allowing fewer than 100 points per game, 92 or fewer allowed in 5 of their last 6 games. Some capable offenses in there as well. The Clippers, Lakers, Golden State. Both of these teams have been great at limiting free throws. Do not expect a lot of freebies here tonight. 1st and 5th in freebies allowed over the last 10. Also over the last 10, a couple key stats here. 4th and 6th in threes allowed. 25th and 27th in pace. Do not expect them to be zipping up and down that court tonight. So we'll take under 215 for that one. And I should also mention to bring it all together, T-Wolves offensively, not very good. Last 10 games, 26 in offensive rating. Okay, John, speaking of revenge game factor, you have a play for this game, a player prop bet.
Yeah, I'm going Dante DiVincenzo over 7.5 points. So his role has kind of faded here. Like he's gone under 5 straight games. His totals dropped a full bucket, 9.5 down to 7.5. His minutes, he's averaging about 24 on the year. He's down to about you're looking closer to 20. I feel like so this prop has an edge at 20 minutes, which you obviously like. But if I'm Chris Finch, come on, you got to play this guy. He's got to see a little bit more minutes going against the Knicks. You're going to get an effort from him. And I just think DiVincenzo, he is definitely someone you can talk about these narratives, revenge games, all these things, but he is definitely someone who has that dog in him and who takes things very personal. And he's not going to be he's not going to go out there and just be passive with how he plays. I think he's going to go there to absolutely try to kill the Knicks. So when you bring that all together, even the preseason game, remember he got into it with the bench and, talking back and forth, and he was chirping, I think, at Rick Brunson. They thought it was Tom Thibodeau. And then after the game with Jalen Brunson, this is very personal for him. I don't think he was stunned by that trade. And the math also gives us an edge. So when you kind of combine the narrative with the math, yeah, give me DiVincenzo over 7.5 points.
Yeah, this game will be on the second screen tonight. Absolutely. Okay, my final pick of the show today, then one more for John. The big Trailblazers Nuggets game that everyone is talking about. Of course, you got to get a bet in on the Trailblazers game. Kidding aside, I think a really good betting opportunity to take the under of 235.5 for this one. Quite simply, this is too many points for a Trailblazers game. I know the Nuggets are involved in a lot of high-scoring games. The Blazers are not. So games with a total of 225 or higher for them this season, they've gone 10-3 to the under. This is only the 5th time all season that they've had a total that's in the 230s. The previous 4 went 3-1 to the under. There is always potential for rock bottom scoring when the Blazers are in a game. They are 27th in scoring. 8 games this season where they failed to reach 100 points. And then some stats here. Don't expect a lot of action from three-point land in this one. Over the last 10 games, Denver is dead last in three-point attempts. Portland doesn't shoot the three very well at all, one of the worst in the NBA. So I think they're going to be hard-pressed to go over that number. So give me the under in that one. And let's wrap things up with one of your favorite players, Jalen Suggs.
Yeah, this is arguably my favorite player in the entire NBA. But when it comes to betting, nobody's safe. So I'm going Jalen Suggs under 20.5 points. I probably watch more Magic games than anyone who bets on sports. And when Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero went out, we just kind of automatically assumed Jalen Suggs would be the one who would step in, and he did have some big games initially. I really just don't think this is who he is as an offensive player. And now the matchup is against the Thunder. The one thing that really concerns me, obviously there's a ton of outs when you talk about an under. I think they could get killed tonight, which would also decrease his minutes, but he's extremely aggressive on the defensive end, and he finds himself in foul trouble a lot, and he's guarding SGA. And SGA is a foul merchant. We all know it. He's really good at hunting fouls. I wouldn't be shocked at all if you just see Jalen Suggs get into foul trouble really early into this game with the matchup with SGA. So when this total's already too high, when you're looking at a minutes projection that I think is also too high for Jalen Suggs, I got to go under here. I just don't see it for him. I especially against the Thunder, I think he's going to struggle. I feel like they're in a lot of trouble the match tonight against the Thunder as well. So give me the under 20.5 points.
Big under show today.
Yeah.
The under on Thursday Night Football, 2 unders in the NBA. I love it. Some people don't like unders. I love them. So, yeah, I got the under in the game tonight, 41.5 Chargers Broncos. I got the Chargers in the first half to be up by at least 2 points. Jingle's kind of going against me a little bit. He likes Denver to go over their team total of 19.5. He likes Williams over his total yards of 54.5. He likes Williams to get into the end zone. And he likes some guy named Michael Burton, who is a fullback, I believe, at 21-1. He's taking a swing on that guy to score a touchdown. NBA recap, the Greasy Grizzlies. Todd pointed that out. Shout out to Todd. Minus 2.5. Knicks, T-Wolves, under 215. Nuggets, Blazers, under 235.5. Then John went with Barrett, under 25.5. Suggs, under 20.5. And Dante in the revenge game to go over 7.5 points. Yeah, Todd. He's cheering for punts and defense tonight. Now, I bet quite a few unders on player props, and not as many this year, but it's always such a conflicting feeling. Like you have Suggs, RJ Barrett going under his point total. If you get the alert that Barrett has left the game with an injury, it's kind of like morally, you're like, well, I hope he's okay, but maybe not okay to come back into this game, right? People will lie about that, but it isn't. You don't want the guy to have a serious injury, for God's sakes. It's a human being with a family, and he's, earning a living. But I think most bettors will admit that kind of get your hopes up a little bit,
I mean, it's part of betting unders. It's what comes with betting. I mean, it's the same when you bet an over, you get overtime. So there's just things that come, with an over or an under. You never want to see, like you said, you never want to see someone get hurt, but I mean, it's one of the advantages of taking an under is someone, even if they just leave the game for 5-10 minutes, it messes up all their minutes and it messes up how their prop plays out. So there's a lot of factors there.
Yeah, I think just be classy about it. Like, don't throw yourself a parade. Like, no. I hit my prop. Look at me. Meanwhile, Tua's laid out on the ground with another concussion. Like, settle down a little bit, right? So
those are the ones. Those are the ones you don't celebrate. You're just like, I won.
You shut up.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it at all. Because you don't even know if you won based on what you thought how the game would play out. You won because they got injured. So in terms of celebrating, it's like, I'm not even sure I was correct, right?
Absolutely. All class, John. Okay, we're going to be right back with you guys tomorrow. It's going to be a loaded show. Brad Powers is going to be here to get into some college football action. First round kicks off here tomorrow night. Our usual avalanche of picks here for the Sunday NFL games and NBA. Once again, John and I will be covering the association, which is getting a lot of bad press here this week about the ratings being down and stuff. But shout out to the owner of the Phoenix Suns lowering concession prices. Get a hot dog for $2.
Yeah,
Phoenix Suns game. I got to plan a trip.
I wish that guy was the owner of all my favorite teams because all he did was go in there, trade for superstars, go way over the luxury tax. He's paying crazy amount of tax on his roster, and he's dropping concessions. He pulled them off cable too. They're on over the air now, so everyone can watch the Suns. Everything. He's at a great job there.
Yeah, shout out to that guy. Okay, let's leave it at that. Thank you to all three of my guests for joining today. Thank you to producer Mick and Chris helping out behind the scenes today. Big shout out to our sponsor, BetMGM. Make sure you check them out for all your sports betting needs. And of course, a big thank you, most of all, goes out to all the great viewers for tuning into the show today. Best of luck with your bets tonight. We will catch you guys again tomorrow. Let's go Chargers and Grizzlies. Woo!